All right, welcome back. You're watching The Realtor, and we are drawing a comparison from 2024 in terms of real estate. How did we do last year, and what should we do better this year? So, Shiv, take us through that.
Sure. So, if you look at residential, again, a big focus on affordable housing, and now talking from the perspective of the private sector. Also driven a lot by government initiatives such as KMRC, which drove demand. I said master plan gated communities and large-scale mixed-use developments really took the fore in 2024. On the commercial office sector, from where we are at Superior Homes, one of the things we do see is a better year in 2024 compared to 2023, and I think a better year than people anticipated. If you look at a couple of factors that have driven, I would say, the positivity sort of in the commercial office sector, at least from where we sit. The first is the growth of co-working spaces and sort of hybrid solutions that are now taking up office space within different nodes. Before, you would have your commercial offices focused in places like the CBD and Upper Hill. But you're now seeing Riverside, you're now seeing Gigiri, you're now seeing Westlands. And that's driving a lot of positivity because this is closer to where people are. It's smaller office spaces, it's higher quality grade A office. And as a result, people are able to take up quite a bit of that space. And we have seen that if you go along Riverside Drive, simply these days, the developments that have come up have done pretty well. At the same time, there's increased influx of multinationals continuing to come into the market, startups that look for office space, and a return to work culture, which is positive to see that, a lot of people returning back to sort of full time in the office. I think we'll continue to see that in 2025. That should be a big trend where there are a lot of people returning fully back to the office. It's taken a couple of years, but people will be back.
Would you say maybe we'll get to a point where now we won't see offices in CBD? Now that we are talking about many offices, not many, but offices. Now people are embracing offices in residential areas, in estates.
Well, look, the CBD is a CBD. It's unique, and I always try to get my head around it, but I really can't.
It's impossible.
It's impossible, but Nairobi seems to have an affinity towards the CBD. So no, I don't think you're going to see less offices. I think you'll see a couple of the offices move to different locations. Kilimani, Riverside, Westlands, Parklands, Gigiri. Ultimately, I think the CBD buildings will probably need to be repurposed. With a lot of the buildings there, you're looking at grade B, grade C offices. The convenience in the CBD is unmatched. And that's really what drives people there. And the amenities, food, pharmacies.
It's accessible.
Yeah, it's accessible. So the growth of these other areas is also now driven by increased accessibility. There's so many buildings in the CBD which I think could be converted into affordable housing, studio, bed-sitters, student accommodation.
Yeah.
And I think over time, you'll start to see a lot of that because there will be a movement away into sort of nodes that are now as accessible as the CBD is.
Now, the affordable housing, you've talked about it, and I know it's a government project initiative. Would you say it will continue to dominate the sector in 2025?
It will continue to at least dominate the discussions in 2025. There's huge pipelines that government is putting together for the affordable housing space. But I wouldn't say it's necessarily a government-driven initiative. I think now enough private sector interest has come into the market. If you look at some large-scale institutional investors have made big investments in 2024 in the affordable housing space. We had never been in the affordable housing space. It's something that we're seriously considering in 2025. And when private sector starts to move into something, it starts to mean that, oh, hang on here, people are like, okay, the returns now seem to start making sense. I think before, we didn't really have our heads around what selling prices do we want, what's going to work, what are the incentives. But I think KMRC is one of the greatest incentives that people can have. If you can get a single digit mortgage, for below 10 million, that's great. And that really increases the availability, because the supply side was always going to come when the demand side got fixed. And there's been initiatives to fix the demand side. So that's really what's going to drive the sector then in 2025. What else is happening in the real estate sector? Student accommodation, again, continues to be a big discussion. And one thing that at least we are positive that we will see in 2025 is obviously the growth of real estate in the capital markets. If you look at listings in the Nairobi Securities Exchange, we haven't really had any. I know that there's a new shift and a new wind and a new direction at the Nairobi Securities Exchange and also through the Capital Markets Authority. We've seen increased number of REITs, real estate investment trusts, and that's so great to see, because it's another avenue to raise institutional capital for real estate and also give investors access to the attractive returns that exist. We're now seeing a huge discussion in institutional frameworks for developers around REITs. How do I raise money from the capital markets, from the listed markets? How do I exit my development, which is yielding, onto the capital markets to give investors access to that? And it's great because it also pushes developers to be more institutional, because if you're not, you can't raise money from the listed markets.
And you know, when we're talking again about affordable housing, you know, there has been uproar about these deductions on affordable housing. So would you say it's actually a good thing for the people of Kenya and the people who want to invest in real estate, for buyers, just everyone in general?
Yeah, look, there has been uproar about the deductions, and people are feeling it in their pocket, right? In a time when sort of there was inflationary pressure, we then had, you know, additional payslip deductions, there was increased taxes. I think when you sort of look at everything in its entirety, it led to the uproar. And what I would like to see is more accountability of these affordable housing projects, and, like, you know, the government taking active steps towards providing further information with regards to, okay, here are the deductions, here's our pipeline of projects, here's where things are going. And I think once people, and if people start to see that, it's good. The news obviously doesn't help, because what gets reported most of the time is, here are the challenges with regards to it. You know, more investors than buyers. A lot of the deductions are not getting spent as quickly as possible. So I think there's a big task ahead for government just to make sure that the pipeline works and the whole process is clear. Once people get transparency, I'm being deducted X. It's going into these projects which I can go and have visibility over. Here are the buyers who successfully bought all of these projects. It will work. But there needs to be that transparency in the market.
Would you say, or maybe you could tell us the specific demands or trends driving demands of residential areas?
What's driving residential areas, in my view, the first is infrastructure development. If you look at roads, opening up areas like Thika Road, down here on Mombasa Road, when places become easily accessible, 25 to 30 minutes away from your work, people are going to be willing to commute, and they're happy to live a little bit outside the city in order to have maybe a better quality of life, but be able to commute in. So that drives a lot of residential development, because people realize, oh, hang on, I don't need to live within the CBD, right? I can live 25, 30 minutes away, but I can still get into work on time. The second is growth of schools, these little strip malls, amenities, that's driving people there. As you see more of these social amenities, lifestyle amenities moving into different areas, again, it increases the attraction for people to want to live in an area. If you think about places like Ruiru, 5 years ago versus today, it's completely changed. It's tarmac roads, easy accessible with public transport, there's now malls, there's now schools, things that weren't there before. Now people are like, oh, hang on, actually I could live there, you know, and probably for my money I'll get a bigger house. than I would get within the CBD. I think those are the two key things, growth of amenities and infrastructure, and then the third being public transport.
So maybe you could tell us now, as Superior Homes, what do you play exactly in this sector?
So we primarily do residential master planned gated communities. So Green Park Estate on Mombasa Road is our flagship project. We have Pazuri at Vipingo. We have Lukenya Plains at the Daystar Junction. And we have a new 300-acre project in Kiambu County called Kanzi Springs and Coffee Ridge. So we're really excited about that. On the commercial side, we launched our first truck stop last year in Sultan Hamoud, which we're pretty excited about because that's institutionalizing a sector which was largely left unattended by the private sector. So we see a huge opportunity in that along the entire northern corridor.
So which sector or segment would you say you think would do better for you as Superior Homes? You've tapped into commercial, residential is also your flagship project. So
and hospitality with the Lake Elementaita Mountain Lodge.
Yeah.
But I mean, our core business is master plan residential gated communities. And we're really excited about that going forward because we see huge demand for people willing to live within 25 to 30 minutes of their work. But instead of an apartment in the CBD, you can come and get a house with a big garden in a gated community with easy access to a school and a safe and secure neighborhood. So we see that as a trend that we will continue to drive, not only in 2025, sort of as our core for at least the next 5 to 10 years.
So any projection for 2025 as we close?
Yeah, I think, again, starting at the top, better macroeconomic indicators. We should see increased lending. There was big crowding out of the private sector just because government investment was so attractive. So better economics, which will trickle down towards the economy. So we're hoping for a better year this year, with obviously all sectors sort of at least being neutral to positive. I don't see a negative in the real estate sector at the moment. And that's not just because I'm a developer, but generally when you look at the trends, what people are doing, the pipeline, and the way the economy is turning, it's going to be a positive year for us.
Thank you so much, Shiv and Superior Homes, for hosting us, and thank you for gracing the Realtor. We expect to see some good things in the Kenyan real estate market in 2025. Inflation is going down, so that could be hope for the real estate market in Kenya in 2025. That's it for today's episode of The Realtor. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Anne Odida, and see you next time.